Have you ever had the sensation that your entire life was collapsing around you? That the solid ground beneath your feet simply vanished, along with every certainty you held, every aspect of your identity, everything you believed defined you? Picture yourself at 17, already a respected warrior, a member of a formidable clan. Then, on a bloody October morning in 1600, on the plains of Sekigahara, it all evaporates. Your army is annihilated. Your clan is decimated. Your status and position dissolve into nothing. You're forced to flee like a fugitive just to preserve your own life. That was the lowest point for Miyamoto Musashi, the man destined to become Japan's greatest samurai. Yet here's what's truly remarkable. That catastrophic fall wasn't his conclusion. It marked his commencement. In the years that followed, wandering lost through Japan's forests as a masterless ronin, Musashi formulated 5 mental principles that not only preserved his existence, but forged a code of conduct so potent that, even now, 4 centuries later, these guidelines can lift anyone from the deepest hopelessness. And I want to be clear, I'm not discussing vague philosophy or superficial self-help. I'm referring to principles tested in actual combat, forged in the most profound anguish imaginable. The first principle contradicts everything you've been taught about processing grief. The second will startle you with its stark straightforwardness. And the fifth is so contrary to intuition that most people refuse to accept its effectiveness. Yet it does work, and I'm going to demonstrate it to you. Before I continue, let me ask you something. How many individuals do you know who are trapped in a life they no longer want? How many of your acquaintances are pretending everything is fine while internally everything is disintegrating? If you've stayed with me this far, it's because something within you identifies with this suffering. And that's not a sign of weakness. It's bravery. Because acknowledging that we need to transform is the initial step toward escaping the pit. So, take a moment, breathe deeply, and accompany me, because what you're about to discover in the coming minutes could determine whether you remain imprisoned in the same cycle of pain or ultimately find the strength to reconstruct your existence from nothing. And trust me on this, if it succeeded for a 17-year-old boy who forfeited everything in a medieval conflict, it can succeed for you too. Let's revisit October 1600. Musashi stands on the Sekigahara plain, amidst Japan's most pivotal battle. On his side, 80,000 soldiers. On the opposing side, another 80,000. Within 6 hours, everything was transformed. Musashi's faction was obliterated. Tens of thousands perished. Severed heads littered the battlefield like spoiled fruit. And Musashi, he managed to flee. Yet escape wasn't triumph, it was disgrace. According to samurai code, dying honorably in combat holds greater value than surviving as a coward. Now envision yourself as a teenager. You forfeited everything. You're pursued like a criminal. Your entire self-conception has been shattered in a single morning. What would you choose to do? Most individuals would opt for one of 2 paths. Either end their own lives to preserve honor or spend the remainder of their days drowning in regret, alcohol, and shame. Musashi chose differently. He undertook something that would transform not merely his own existence, but the entire samurai philosophy. First rule, embrace the stark reality. He ceased resisting what had occurred. This sounds straightforward, but it's far from easy. Embracing reality when it's cruel is extraordinarily difficult because our minds are wired to reject pain. When catastrophe strikes, this cannot be happening to me. Then comes fury. This is unjust. Then bargaining. If I do this, perhaps things will return to normal. But Musashi bypassed all those stages. He surveyed the ruins of his life and said, "All right, this is the situation now. What comes next? Not why me. Not this shouldn't have happened. Just what now?" That shift in questioning is explosive. Because when you cease fighting what has already transpired, all the energy previously consumed by resistance becomes available for action. Consider this analogy: you're inside a burning house. You can either scream, "This house shouldn't be burning," or you can dash for the exit. Which response will save your life? Acceptance isn't passivity, it's strategy. A Harvard University study confirms this. Researchers tracked individuals who experienced severe trauma, job loss, divorce, bereavement, and uncovered something remarkable. The quickest to recover weren't those who suffered least. They were those who accepted their new circumstances most rapidly, because acceptance liberates you to ask the crucial question: given that this has already happened, what is my next move? Masashi posed this question, and the answer guided him to the second principle. But before I proceed, answer this for me. What are you currently attempting to deny in your own life? What situation are you resisting that's only intensifying your suffering? Because until you accept where you stand, you cannot move toward where you wish to be. After accepting his new reality, Masashi confronted the second major temptation, the desperate search for immediate relief. Imagine it: you're suffering, lost, devoid of purpose. Every day brings agony. The pain feels so overwhelming, it seems to consume you from within. At such a moment, anything offering to dull the pain appears seductive: alcohol, food, sex, entertainment, drugs. Anything to make you forget, even temporarily. In feudal Japan, masterless samurai often degenerated into drunken vagabonds, compulsive gamblers, or dishonorable mercenaries. It was the typical fate of those who had lost everything. But Masashi rejected that trajectory. Second rule: reject enervating pleasures. Instead of pursuing comfort, he selected the more arduous path: rigorous discipline. He adopted the lifestyle of a warrior monk. He slept outdoors, consumed only what was necessary for survival, trained with his sword for 8 hours daily, meditated, studied, and wrote. Every day represented a struggle against the lure of easy comfort. And here's what modern science reveals about this approach. When you're in pain, pursuing immediate pleasure doesn't resolve the problem. It magnifies it. A neuroscientist at Stanford University made a startling finding. He compared the brains of trauma survivors who coped through self-indulgence with those who coped through discipline. The result? Those who pampered themselves exhibited even higher cortisol levels, the stress hormone, over time. Why? Because the brain recognizes you're evading the problem, not solving it, generating further anxiety. It's like attempting to extinguish a fire with gasoline. Temporarily, it feels like relief, but the fire intensifies afterward. Conversely, those who chose discipline not only recovered faster, but emerged stronger than before. Masashi grasped this intuitively. He understood that the suffering he elected to endure differed fundamentally from the suffering imposed upon him. One is arbitrary and destructive. The other is deliberate and constructive. Consider this: if suffering is inevitable, and it is, at least choose suffering that fortifies rather than destroys you. Training your discipline hurts initially, but each day you resist temptation, you grow stronger. Each no to what's easy is a yes to who you aspire to become. It resembles building muscle. It hurts, but it strengthens you. Seeking comfort when you should be building is like taking anesthetic before essential surgery. It might reduce pain, but it impedes healing. Masashi wrote a phrase years later that encapsulates this. The path is daily discipline in small things. Minor matters, not grand heroic gestures. Small daily choices between ease and righteousness. Wake up on time. Accomplish what requires doing. Refuse what weakens you. It sounds simple. Try it for a week, and you'll discover its difficulty. Yet that difficulty is precisely what reconstructs you. Now tell me, what is your addiction? What do you use to escape pain, yet know deep down harms you? Because until you eliminate that, you won't be prepared to develop the third principle. 1612, Ganryu Island. Masashi faces the most renowned duel in Japanese history. Across the beach stands Sasaki Kojiro, known as the Demon of the Long Sword, one of history's greatest swordsmen. Flawless technique, lightning speed, utterly fixated on killing Musashi. Spectators wait anxiously. Gamblers are on edge. Everyone understands that one of them will die today. And here's a detail that shifted everything. Musashi arrived 3 hours late deliberately. While Kojiro waited on the beach, warming up, growing anxious, overthinking the duel, Musashi was carving a wooden sword. When he finally appeared, Kojiro erupted in fury. He shouted, cursed, threatened, consumed with hatred. Musashi remained calm, breathing steadily, his mind perfectly clear. The duel lasted 30 seconds. Kojiro, technically superior, lost. His skull was crushed by Musashi's wooden sword. Why? Third rule, your emotions are your adversary. Kojiro fought with rage, and Musashi fought with reason. And that distinction determines survival. This contradicts everything modern culture teaches. Today, everyone urges you to follow your feelings, trust your heart, be authentic with your emotions. Yet Musashi discovered what contemporary neuroscience has validated: your emotions are terrible counselors. A Harvard researcher followed 2,000 people for a decade and discovered that 87% of their most regretted decisions were made during intense emotional states. Anger, fear, sadness, euphoria. When any powerful emotion overwhelms you, your judgment deteriorates. That's why you send that angry WhatsApp message and regret it later. Why you spend money you lack when you're sad. Why you make foolish choices when infatuated. Your emotions evolved for emergencies. They're alarms, not GPS. When threatened by a lion, fear serves a purpose. It makes you run. But when attempting to rebuild your existence, letting fear dominate only paralyzes you. Musashi understood this. He developed what he termed unperturbable mind. This doesn't mean he lacked emotions. It means he refused to let emotions decide for him. Think of yourself as an airplane pilot. Your emotions are the passengers. They may scream, cry, panic, but you remain in control. If you let passengers fly the plane, everyone perishes. Musashi employed a simple technique, the 10-second rule. Whenever he felt a powerful emotion, he counted to 10 before acting. He took a deep breath. Let the emotional wave pass. Emotions resemble waves. They arrive, peak, then subside. If you can ride the wave rather than drown in it, you maintain control. This applies to everything: anger, count to 10, fear, count to 10, sadness, count to 10. At that point, ask yourself, what would the most rational version of me do right now? Then act based on reason, not emotion. Does it feel cold? Robotic? Perhaps, but it works. How often have you sabotaged yourself by acting impulsively? How many opportunities have you lost to fear? How many relationships have you destroyed through anger? If you wish to rebuild your life, you must learn to be the pilot, not the passenger. Here's the paradox. When you stop being enslaved by your emotions, you become freer to experience them fully, because you know you can feel without being controlled. You can be sad without making foolish decisions. You can be angry without destroying what you've built. You can be afraid without being immobilized. Your emotions become information, not commands. Now tell me, what emotion dominates you most? Anger, fear, sadness, anxiety? Because until you learn to control it, you'll continue to be your own worst enemy. Yet there's something even more dangerous that can undermine all your efforts. After years as a wandering Ronin, Musashi confronted an enemy more subtle than any blade himself. The loneliness was crushing. Days blurred together monotonously, and gradually a dangerous fixation began consuming his mind. He constantly replayed the Battle of Sekigahara. Every moment, every decision, every error. He spent hours imagining alternative outcomes. What if I had done this? What if I had chosen that? Why did this happen to me? This relentless rumination was corroding him internally. It was like an unhealing wound he kept picking at. Here's the deadly trap when your life collapses. It's natural to turn your focus entirely inward, to your pain, your trauma, your narrative. You become obsessed with yourself. You revisit the same toxic thoughts. You cycle endlessly through your suffering. But Masashi recognized something crucial. Fourth rule: stop being the center of the universe. Self-obsession is a prison. He made a radical decision to expand his mind beyond his personal anguish. He began studying philosophy, art, poetry, architecture. He learned calligraphy, painting, sculpture. He traveled across Japan, encountering diverse cultures and conversing with masters from various fields. He literally compelled his brain to engage with matters larger than his individual suffering. And something extraordinary occurred. The more he learned about the world, the smaller his pain seemed. Not because the pain diminished, but because he gained perspective. It's like climbing a mountain. Down below, a rock on the path appears as an insurmountable obstacle. From the summit, you perceive it as merely a small stone in an expansive landscape. Modern neuroscience explains exactly why this works. A University of Michigan study found that people who fixate exclusively on their problems activate brain regions associated with chronic depression. Yet when these same individuals were exposed to knowledge about completely unrelated subjects, their brains formed new neural connections that effectively deactivated the suffering circuits. It's like offering your mind alternative focal points besides pain. Masashi understood this intuitively. He knew a small mind can only perceive small problems, but an expanded mind can envision solutions previously invisible. He employed a brilliant daily exercise, dedicating at least 1 hour to learning something entirely unrelated to his feelings. If sad, he studied mathematics. If angry, he practiced calligraphy. If anxious, he observed nature. The objective was training the mind to break free from the suffering loop and connect with something greater. Here's the brutal truth. Your suffering, however genuine, represents a microscopic fragment of the human experience. 8 billion people exist. Billions of narratives, millions of years of evolution, trillions of potential neural connections. And you're wasting all this immensity by remaining trapped in a narrow story about your pain. I'm not saying your suffering doesn't matter. I'm saying it's not the only thing that matters. When you expand your perspective, two things happen. First, you realize your problems aren't unique. Others have endured similar experiences and overcome them, offering hope. Second, you discover mental resources you never knew existed because your mind was too preoccupied with suffering to explore its own capacities. It's like living in a mansion but spending your entire existence locked in the basement, unaware of what you're missing. Masashi transformed this mental expansion into a competitive advantage. While other warriors studied only combat, he studied everything. This made him unpredictable, creative, capable of finding solutions others overlooked. The same can happen to you. When you stop ruminating on your problems and begin feeding your mind with new knowledge, your problem-solving abilities increase exponentially. So answer me, when did you last learn something completely new? Something unrelated to your current difficulties? Because a stagnant mind produces stagnant solutions. Yet there remains one final trap capable of destroying all this progress. 1645. Masashi is now acknowledged as Japan's greatest swordsman. He won over 60 duels, never lost a fight. He authored the Book of Five Rings, still studied today by business people, athletes, and military strategists. Yet in a letter to a disciple, he reveals something surprising. The most dangerous enemy I ever faced wielded no sword. He was invisible, silent, and nearly destroyed me completely. What enemy? Envy. Even after all his discipline, emotional control, and expanded perspective, Masashi discovered one final deadly trap, comparing his suffering to others' apparent happiness. During his Ronin years, he observed other samurai who hadn't lost everything. Warriors still possessing clans, positions, recognition, and it corroded him internally. Why do they have everything while I have nothing? Why did suffering choose me? It's not fair. This constant comparison was slow poison, erasing any progress he made. Because no matter how much you grow, someone will always appear better off. That's when he discovered the fifth rule, gratitude as a weapon. Not the fake gratitude of positive thinking, but strategic gratitude. Masashi began training his mind to focus on what remained rather than what was lost. He had life, health, freedom to choose his path, knowledge, experience, the opportunity to reinvent himself completely. Science confirms this. AUC neuroscientists conducted an experiment with 300 trauma survivors, dividing them into two groups. Group 1 spent 15 minutes daily contemplating what they'd lost. Group 2 spent 15 minutes daily contemplating what they still possessed. After 30 days, their brains were entirely different. Group 1 showed increased amygdala activity, fear center, and decreased prefrontal cortex activity, reason center. Group 2 showed the opposite, less fear, more reasoning ability, plus elevated dopamine and serotonin levels. Happiness hormones. Gratitude isn't merely about feeling good. It literally reprograms your brain to function better. But one crucial detail, it cannot be generic gratitude. It must be specific. Masashi developed a ritual. Every night before sleep, he wrote down 3 specific things he was grateful for that day. Now I'm grateful for life, but I'm grateful I learned a new sword technique today. Not I'm grateful for health, but I'm grateful my body endured 6 hours of training without failing me. Specificity forces your brain to genuinely notice in your life instead of operating on autopilot and focusing only on what's broken. It has an interesting side effect. When you train yourself to see what works, your ability to create more things that work increases, like training a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Here's the most counterintuitive part. Masashi employed gratitude not merely to feel better, but as a war strategy in battle. Warriors focused on what they could lose fought with fear. Warriors focused on what they could gain fought with courage. But Masashi focused on what he'd already achieved, making him calm, confident, unperturbed. He entered each duel grateful to be alive, grateful to test his skills, grateful to have reached that point. This wasn't naivety. It was applied psychology. Gratitude generates mental abundance, and mental abundance generates better decisions. When you believe you have resources, you act as if you have resources. When you act as if you have resources, you create resources. It's a virtuous cycle. Now consider the opposite. Envy creates mental scarcity. Mental scarcity creates desperate decisions. Desperate decisions create more scarcity. It's a vicious cycle. So answer honestly, do you spend more time focused on what you have or what you lack? That answer defines whether you're building or destroying your own life. Here's the final irony. Those who practice gratitude most are those who achieve the most new things. Not because the universe conspires in their favor or any esoteric nonsense, but because a grateful brain functions better. It makes superior decisions, spots opportunities others miss, attracts people who want to be near it. Gratitude isn't passivity, it's a competitive advantage. Masashi's hidden sixth principle: he never attempted to return to who he was before. While everyone else in crisis becomes obsessed with recovering their former life, Masashi recognized that life had already died. Trying to resurrect a corpse wastes time. Instead, he asked, what kind of person can I become with the knowledge I now possess? He didn't try to be the naive 17-year-old samurai again. He decided to become something unprecedented, a warrior philosopher. A master combining physical strength with spiritual wisdom. He used pain as raw material to construct an entirely new version of himself. Here's the ultimate twist. If the Battle of Sekigahara hadn't occurred, Masashi likely would have lived and died as just another ordinary samurai. Competent, perhaps, but forgettable. It was the complete destruction of his life that created conditions for him to become legendary. The crisis wasn't the story's end, it was the legend's beginning. And this applies to your life too. Perhaps you're mourning the person you used to be. Perhaps you're desperate to reclaim that normal life you once possessed. But what if that normal life was actually a gilded prison? What if you were living far below your true potential? What if the crisis you're experiencing right now is the universe forcing you to evolve into a version of yourself you didn't even know was possible? Just think, how many people do you know who live normal lives but are completely unhappy? Who have everything they could want yet feel constant emptiness inside? Perhaps the broken life is actually life awakening. Here's the truth no one wants to hear: genuine growth only occurs under pressure. Diamonds form under extreme pressure. Muscles grow when pushed beyond limits. Character is forged in adversity. When life is easy, you become complacent. When life is hard, you develop superpowers you didn't know you possessed. Masashi figured this out. He used his worst experience as fuel to become his best self. And these 5 rules: accept reality, reject shortcuts, control emotions, broaden perspective, cultivate gratitude, are the map he left for you to undertake the same journey. It's not easy, it's not quick, it's not comfortable, but it works. Here's my final challenge to you: stop trying to fix your broken life. Start building a new one. Use Musashi's 5 rules not to return to who you were, but to become who you can still be. Because ultimately, you have 2 choices: spend the rest of your life mourning what you lost, or spend it building who you can become. The choice is yours. But if you choose the second option, know you're not alone. Masashi left a marked path. Modern science confirms its effectiveness. Thousands have walked this journey before you. Your broken life isn't a curse, it's an opportunity in disguise. The question is whether you have enough courage to accept it. Because on the other side of that courage waits the version of you not yet born, but who desperately wants to be born. And that version, my friend, that version will astonish you. Now tell me of Masashi's 5 rules, which impacted you most, and more importantly, which will you begin applying today? Because knowledge without action is merely entertainment. And you didn't come this far to be entertained. You came here to be transformed. So what will it be?